I know.
No, I already knew the answer
Mayor,
to that.
you're
but
15
Yeah, I
seconds
thought you
late.
probably
the
would.
process.
You're 15 seconds late,
Yeah,
Mayor.
That's right.
Mayor.
No, yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you all to the first city council meeting for the year of 2020. And since the mayor's position is vacant, we just we are going to swear him in. So we're asking the Honorable Judge Anna Perry to come forward and swear in our new elected mayor, Mr. Gil McDougall.
This is it. We may need a microphone. Again, we're listening. Go ahead.
All right. I, Gil McDougall, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will and truly perform the duties of mayor of the city of Villa Rica, Georgia, and that I will support and defend the charter thereof, as well as the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia and of the United States of America. I further swear that I am not the holder of any public money due to this state unaccounted for, and that I am not the holder of any office or trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state which by the laws of this state I am prohibited from holding, and that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia, and will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and if elected by any circuit or district, that I have been a resident thereof for the time required by the Constitution and laws of this state, so help me God.
I do. Thank you. I believe that oath is a little longer than the one I took the last time I was here. So the next thing we need to do is to swear in our two newly elected council members. I would ask the Honorable Aubrey Duffy to come forward and swear in Ms. Shirley Marchman, who represents Ward 1 for the city of Villa Rica. You should go down.
I requested him. He's always sworn me in.
Okay, here we go. I, Shirley Marchman,
I surely much.
do solemnly swear that I will truly perform the duties
You solemnly swear that I will perform the duties
of Ward 1 Council
of Ward 1 Council
of the city of Villa Rica,
of the city of Villa Rica,
and that I will support
and that I will support
and defend
and defend
the charter
the charter
thereof as well as the Constitution
thereof, as well as the Constitution
and laws of the state of Georgia
and laws of the state of Georgia
and of the United States of America.
and the United States
Mayor,
of America.
I further swear that I am not the holder of any public money
I definitely swear that I'm not the holder of any money
due to this state
to this state
unaccounted for,
unaccounted,
and that I am not the holder
and that I am not the holder
of any office or trust
of any office or trust
under the government of the United States
of the government of the United States
or any state
or any state
or any foreign state
or any foreign state
by which the laws of this state
by which the laws of this state
I am prohibited from holding,
I am prohibited from holding,
and that I am otherwise qualified
that I am otherwise qualified
to hold said office
to hold said office
according to the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia,
according to the laws and Constitution of the state of Georgia,
and will support the Constitution of the United States
and will support the Constitution of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
and if elected by any, and if elected by any circuit or district,
and if elected by any circuit or district
that I have been a resident thereof
that have been a resident thereof
for the time required by the Constitution
for the time required by the Constitution
and the laws of the state of Georgia.
and the laws of the state of Georgia.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
All right, and the next swearing in will be for Councilman Matthew Montahan, who represents Ward 2. And he'll be sworn in by Judge Aubrey Duffy.
Oh, yeah, you did. Okay, okay. I think she needs probably needs to sign that. Okay. I, Matthew Montahan, do solemnly swear that I will truly and well perform the duties of Ward 2 Council of the City of Villa Rica, and that I will support and defend the charter thereof, as well as the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia and the United States of America. I further swear that I am not the holder of any public money due this state unaccounted for, and that I am not the holder of any office or trust under the government of the United States or any other state or any foreign state, of which by the laws of this state I am prohibited from holding, and that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia, and I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of this state, and if elected to any circuit or district that I have been a resident thereof for the time required by the Constitution and the laws of this state, so help me God. That's right. Congratulations. Okay, very good. Congratulations. Very well.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay,
Okay.
okay. Okay. Get you to sign that. That's not done yet. You should sign this one. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to ask Pastor Matt Schaefer to come forward and lead us in the invocation, followed immediately by Miss Mia Feliciano to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Where did she go? Okay. All right, if everybody would rise for the invocation, then remain standing for the pledge.
Father God, we just thank you. Lord, we thank you that you give us leaders after your own heart. It's what you do, God. You give us shepherds after your own heart. Lord, there's no authority except the authority that you have appointed. And Father, we thank you for these council members, Lord, and our new mayor over the city of Villa Rica. We thank you that you will stand with them in the weeks, months, and years to come, Lord, to make decisions that help us live quiet and peaceful lives, Lord, in all godliness and holiness. Father, so that when people look at Villa Rica, they will see that God smiles on this city, Lord, through the decisions that they're going to make. Father, we ask for your blessing to be with them, and that you go forward with them in all their decision making. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. Pledge of Allegiance. Would you hand her a microphone? You stand right there.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, before we get started, let me recognize a few people in the room. I would like to recognize Mr. Christian Campbell with Troop 1828, Villa Rica, and his father, John Campbell, who is the troop leader. We would like to thank them for coming tonight. They were going to lead us in the pledge. Also, Harley Darbon, is that the name? Darbon. Thank you all for coming out tonight. They will be on the schedule to lead us in the pledge, I think at the next council meeting. Is that correct? Thank you all for coming tonight. Also, thank you all. Also, I'd like to recognize State Court Judge candidate Erica Tysinger. You in that room, Erica? Please welcome her. Would you like to say anything, Erica?
Sure. I'm just happy to be here, and I'm an attorney in Carrollton, Georgia, and I'm running for Carroll County State Court Judge. I would welcome the opportunity to talk with anyone and answer any questions. If you would like to know more about me or anything like that, I have a Facebook page. You can contact me. It's Erica Tyson is the State Court Judge, or you can contact me at my law office, which is Bruce Messenger, and we have a website you can find my phone. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to make a few remarks in a few moments, but first I'd like to give the newly sworn-in council members an opportunity to make some remarks if they'd like to. Ms. Shirley Marchman.
No, I'm just,
Perfectly
I
fine.
just appreciate the constituents in Ward 1 for thinking enough of me to put me back in office for another 4 years. This will be about 24 of years for me serving the public, and I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And anytime you need to call me, my number is up there, so just give me a call. And thank you all once again.
Thank you for serving again. Councilman Montahan, would you like to make a few remarks?
I also would like to thank my constituents in Ward 2 for giving me the opportunity to serve you once again for a full term this time. I always like to get folks in my ward, encourage them to participate in the city and get involved. If you have any questions about how to do so, my phone number is out there as well. Please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. They probably weren't expecting those opportunities, so they didn't get a chance to write a speech like I did. I thought they might take up too much time,
Wasn't intend to.
and I intend to do that. So let me take a few moments, and I did prepare these remarks, so they're going to sound a little bit prepared, but I did write these. So, Madam Pro Tem, members of the council, Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney, distinguished guests, my fellow citizens, welcome. I am honored and humbled to accept the responsibilities of this office and to represent Villa Rica as its 32nd mayor. Our families are the ones we count on when others count us out. I have 3 sons who I count on. They are here tonight, and I want to recognize them. If y'all would give them a hand, please. Thank y'all. They didn't know that either. Also here tonight is my sister, Rhonda. Thank you for always believing in me. I'm sure if our parents were still alive, they would be proud to be the parents of a mayor of the city they called home for so many years. The path from the housing projects to the mayor's office is not a well-worn path. Indeed, there's a lot of brush to beat back. But as we see tonight, it is possible. In this room tonight are other close friends who have played an especially important role in my life. Rather than risk leaving anyone out, let me just say a heartfelt thank you. I want to thank everyone who worked on our campaign, particularly Jeff and Teresa for the video and graphics work, Rhonda, Jody, CJ, and Travis, and the rest of the door-to-door teams, Carolyn Cox at To Sew For You for the t-shirts, Carl Peabody, who kept our finances straight, John Goodfriend, the campaign manager, and a special thank you to Randy Mueller and his daughter Melissa for hosting our watch party at Uncorked on Main, and to all of the many volunteers and supporters who talked to their neighbors and friends, or handed out buttons or wristbands or made phone calls. It is because of all of you that we are here tonight, so thank you. I need to thank Jeff Reese for his outstanding service and leadership as mayor. Thank you for endorsing my campaign early on. my responsibility is not only to be a good mayor, but to be one of the best. I will do my best. On behalf of the city of Villa Rica, thank you for your service and your long dedication to our city. To our staff, I want to thank Tom Barber and the entire staff for their support and continued dedication to Villa Rica. When the mayor and council finally concluded its exhaustive search for a new city manager in the summer of 2017, Tom was our choice. Tom is a dedicated city manager, focused on the needs of Villa Rica, uninterested in the passions of the day that could distract a lesser person. Tom, I look forward to continuing the work we have begun. Under Tom's leadership, Villa Rica's department heads are becoming second to none, and I appreciate all that they do. Our city has worked to attract and retain outstanding employees by improving wages, benefits, and overall workplace morale. We appreciate your commitment to our city, and it shows in the work you do. To our citizens, Sir Winston Churchill said, "Democracy is the worst form of government, except all the rest." Our system is not perfect, but it is the best system going. Democracy is about the governed electing those that they govern. As elected representatives, we understand and respect the role of the citizen. As a whole, as an electorate, the citizens decide who will represent them in their government. Our city has more than 15,000 citizens that call Villa Rica their home. It is our job to represent as best we can all of these citizens equally. Every citizen has an absolute right to be treated equally under the law. As your mayor, I will never forget that. Villa Rica elected Captain Nathaniel Harbin Humphreys its first mayor in 1884. Each person who has held this office has brought their own style and indeed their own interpretation to the office. I have looked to the city charter to inform my role. The charter defines the mayor as the chief executive official of the city and the chief advocate of policy. Tonight, I swore an oath to support and defend that charter, as well as the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Georgia and of the laws thereof. I will do that. As mayor, my vision is that residents have an opportunity to live, work, and play in Villa Rica, from the quiet open spaces of communities and green space to the vibrant energy of downtown. We are a multifaceted community. We are the home and host of influential businesses in industry, finance, retail, and textiles. We are the home to some great local businesses like Gabe's Downtown and Uncorked on Main, as well as new businesses such as Sprinkles. We have a vibrant cultural arts community that is committed to making Villa Rica a destination. So how do we keep the momentum going and attract new businesses to our city? We continue to improve our infrastructure and invest in our downtown. We recognize that we have something special in Villa Rica. Let's be discerning about the development we say yes to, but let's not forget Villa Rica is open for business. Villa Rica must be a city that is business friendly, job friendly, and goes the extra mile to attract and keep new business in our city. That means expanding the use of our partners such as Nextsite and Carol Tomorrow to attract new business and industry to our city. And we will walk the extra mile to attract, expand, and keep our current businesses. Villa Rica must be safe. Now, make no mistake about it. We have an extraordinary police department led by an extraordinary chief, and I'm proud of them and the work they do. They keep us safe in the toughest of times, and we are grateful for their service. But we and they are committed to doing more. Last year, we added 3 new police officers, and this year, we must do more. But this must be a start, not a finish. We also need to become more proactive, not just reactive. We need to put policemen back on foot patrols and bike patrols, crack down on quality of life crimes, including noise complaints and code violations that often make it difficult to attract good people to live in our neighborhoods. We need to work with our neighborhoods and HOAs to find more innovative ways to put more eyes on the streets quickly, and we need to send a clear message. Villa Rica is a safe city, and we are going to keep it that way. By the way, today is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. If you get the chance, thank them for their service. One of the strengths of Villa Rica is that we are a caring community. The voices of our veterans and the wisdom of our older adults will be heard and respected. I will continue to reach out and ensure that their voices are taken into consideration. I have had discussions with various individuals and organizations about how the office of the mayor can be a partner to help address concerns right here in our community, such as homelessness, mentorships for special needs youth, food pantries, as well as senior citizen and veteran services. Today, here in Villa Rica, we are starting a new chapter. Today, we take the next step in building our future as we move into 2020. As Helen Keller said, alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. My vision for Villa Rica involves all of you. What happens from this day forward is something we will shape together. Every resident, business owner, and stakeholder of Villa Rica has a seat at our city's table. I am honored to sit at the head of that table and lead us forward. Tonight, I promise that I will always be guided by what's best for our city. Together with you, the citizens of Villa Rica, we will continue to keep our city a beautiful, progressive, and safe place to live, a place we can all be proud of. I am ready to get to work as the next mayor of the city of Villa Rica. Okay, so we have a few ceremonial presentations tonight, and I haven't noticed. Okay, so I have Bill Taylor, Downtown Development Authority, and Ellen Wynn McBrayer, Downtown Development Authority. I see Ellen. Is Bill here?
Yes, no.
Okay, let's go ahead and do Ellen's. I was going to do those two together. That's why I asked that. Ellen, if you would come on. All right. I had mentioned I might have to get a stool if I have to keep doing this and doing these pictures, because I'm going to. But instead, we may do something different. Before anybody has a joke, I have my own jokes. All right. If you would raise your hand. I, Ellen Wynn McBrayer, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties as an appointed member of the Downtown Development Authority. I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof. I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state, which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia, am prohibited from holding. I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia. I will perform the duties of my office in the best interest of the city of Villa Rica, to the best of my ability, without fear, favor, affection, reward, or expectation thereof. Thank you. Your term will be from 1/27/2020 to 5/31/2022. I know Prissy left, but she tells me to always do the V shape. It keeps me from looking as big. I think she wasn't talking just to me, though. There you go. The next one is...
Really?
No, ma'am. Absolutely not. You're beautiful. Right here. Oh, Willie Marchman.
Yeah.
Let's ask Willie to come up. Willie will be appointed to a new term onto the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's Bill Taylor. There you go. Hello, sir. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. All right, if you'll raise your right hand and say I do when I'm finished. I, Willie Marchman, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties as an appointed board member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof. I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state, which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia, am prohibited from holding. I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia. I will perform the duties of my office in the best interest of the city of Villa Rica, to the best of my ability, without fear, favor, affection, reward, or expectation thereof? Congratulations, sir. Your term will be from 1/1/2020 to 12/31/2022. Here you go, Willie. You need to sign it right there. All right, and did Bill Taylor show up? No.
That's my husband, by the way.
They asked me to cut time. I was trying to cut those 3 seconds.
Yeah, right.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is to adopt the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt this agenda?
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor? It is unanimous. Okay, we have reached the portion for council updates. Do I have any one who would like to give council updates?
Just a real quick one, and this may not seem like an important item, but it was something you referred to in your speech when we talked about some of the things we've done for employees. Some of us benefit also with us being self-insured and the benefits that we offer. And I just wanted to mention something I had specifically noticed in going to the doctor and that sort of thing, is we now have, because we're self-insured and we have a lot more decision-making over how things work for our insurance, we have co-pays where you can go to a specialist for $15. Now, I don't know about you, but I haven't seen a $15 copay for a specialist in a lot of years. And so I think even as we work on salaries and those sort of things, these other benefits are great for employees, and especially think about if you have a family. I remember when I used to worry about having to take mine just for the copay. There were times where things were so tight that I was even trying to find a way to save that. And so that's just a really good benefit, and I hope it'll help us as we recruit people too, is not just salaries, but the benefits that are offered here in Villa Rica.
All right, thank you. Anybody else seek to be recognized? No. Okay, we have reached the time for public comment. We ask that you sign in for public comments. Hopefully before the meeting, but you can still do that now. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
John Hannaback, 3106 Golfers Way, Villa Rica. First of all, I want to congratulate Gil McDougall as our new mayor, and really to congratulate all of the council. This is a new administration. Council members may not just be newly elected, but this is going to be a new administration, and I really look forward to that. Now, we have had some significant changes in Planning and Zoning Commission as well. Last meeting, I was elected as the chair of Planning and Zoning. Tom Flowers was elected as a vice chair. And we've had some other changes. So we've had a couple of new members to Planning and Zoning. One, the last meeting was his first one. The other one's been there for a couple of meetings. But so there have been a lot of changes in Planning and Zoning. And as we're going through the zoning ordinance, I've made some suggestions and recommendations to Chris to make some additional changes in Planning and Zoning. You as a council will hear those when Chris presents the zoning ordinance to you. I urge you to approve those changes to Planning and Zoning, which you will hear at that time. I also want to thank Chris, who has done a Herculean job in this rezoning ordinance, or not rezoning, but the zoning ordinance. That is a tremendous amount of work. There's still more to do. Council has got to look at it, make comments as you've already done, and of course, approve it. So again, I urge you to do that. One of the things too I would like you to consider is the possibility of including some form of solicitor at our planning and zoning meetings. Sam has been there on a number of occasions, and I know that's an additional expense for the council, but we run into situations where it's awfully nice to have a solicitor available to turn to for some constructive comments, criticisms, and advice. So keep those things in mind. Again, I look forward to working with you, as I'm sure the community does. Congratulations again. Let's do it.
Thank you, sir. You did very good. It just ended the 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kurt Kraft. My address is 2406 Ridge Lake Drive. During the League of Women Voters, where they had the debate between the three candidates, one of the items that was brought up was about crime, and when I heard what I heard tonight, glad I came today. One of the things that was said during that meeting when they asked Gil McDougall, and I'm not going to pick on you tonight because it's your night, but it was about crime and the concern for the rise in crime, and his response was it wasn't that bad, and crime wasn't that bad, and also there was a lot of information out there on websites. Over the past few years, I've looked at certain websites. One of them was safewise.com, which produces the safest cities in Georgia list every year. This year, Villa Rica was 80th out of 133. The first time I saw that list, I was kind of shocked about a year or so ago. There was another list that put them in the bottom third. So when Gil made that comment, I said, well, wait a minute. All right, let's think about this, you know. And so today I looked at the police department's website and the city of Villa Rica's website. And the police department's website, it's a great website. I liked it. It's got other stuff on there, but I couldn't find that information. So when I went to the villarica.org and you click on documents, police, the only thing that popped up was a 2015 annual report. And that annual report, believe me, had everything. Every crime statistics, there was like pictures of who the officers were. It was a very, very thorough report. But what stood out was that was the only year represented. There was nothing before and there was nothing after, which I found a little odd. At one time also, the city had a website that they, I guess, contracted with called www.crimereports.com, and I did not see that website on there anymore. And that's one where you can call it up and see the little dots and where the crimes are and all that stuff. Well, that one, I didn't see that. So today I'm just going to be administrative and just turn in a open records request. And the main thing, there's 5 requests on here. I'm not going to read them all, just the one, which is requesting just a PDF file emailed to me for the annual reports for the years of 2016, 17, 18, and 19. Thank y'all very much.
Okay, anybody else? Any more public comments? All right. We're going to move on to the governing body. Did good. The first item under governing body is the approval of the minutes for December the 10th, 2019. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve the minutes of December 10th, 2019.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor? All right, the next item, you getting all this, Alyssa? I'm probably not going to call it all out. I'm ready to move on. The next item is the election of the mayor pro tem for 2020. Let's go ahead and open that up for discussion. And if there's a motion, I'm ready to go.
Ready for nominations?
Go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Councilman Danny Carter for Mayor Pro Tem for the year of 2020.
Okay, do I hear any other nominations? Okay, there's a nomination for Danny Carter to be the Mayor Pro Tem for the year 2020. There are no other nominations. All in favor? Oh, that wasn't a motion. All right, let me get a second.
Second.
So I have a nomination and a second. All in favor? Danny Carter,
Yeah.
you will be the Mayor Pro Tem for the year 2020, and you will slip over to this seat at our next meeting.
Okay.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. the next thing is for me. I will be appointing the 2020 standing committees for the mayor. I have, let me see the best way to hand these out. Madam Clerk, I'll give you a copy of this after so you have it. So I'm going to give you your assignments for recreation, housing, library, public safety, and finance. And I'll give you the chairman. And if you don't get it tonight, that's fine. Alyssa will have a copy of it, and she'll send it all out tomorrow. So under recreation, Councilwoman Marchman will be the chair, and there will also be McPherson and Young on recreation. For housing, Momtahan will be the chair. It will be McPherson and Marchman as well. On the library board, McPherson will be the chair, then Young and Carter. Public safety, Carter will be the chair, with Momtahan and Marchman. Under finance, Young will be the chair, Momtahan and Carter. All right, and like I said, I'll give a copy of this to the city clerk after this meeting. Okay, the next item on the agenda is schedule of council meetings for 2020. We had this carried over from December. There were several proposals laid out there. I think there were maybe 5 of them. I have also made a proposal. Let me pass out a copy of those to everybody so that you have that to look at. And then I will ask the city manager to present that item. Would you hand Tom one? Matt already has one.
All right, this is a continuation from the December 10th meeting. The current council calendar structure is a second Tuesday, fourth Tuesday meeting with no work session. And you have before you a recommendation for a hybrid schedule that changes in mid-year from a 2-meeting with no work session like we do now to 2 meetings with a work session on the same day as the meeting, followed by a series of 1 meeting per month with a work session earlier in the day on the same day of the third, like the old schedule, which would be the Thursday before the Tuesday meeting.
So essentially the one you just presented, I didn't know if you were going to present all of them. The one that is here that I have proposed, we had a number of suggestions from council members about how to do the 2020 schedule, and nobody really had a majority of people who are trying to do the same thing. So what we're trying to do is continue the schedule that we have now, 2 meetings a month, the second and fourth Tuesday at 6 p.m., but we're going to add a work session immediately prior to that. This is what I'm proposing at 5 p.m., and there we want to emphasize a consent agenda to help make our meetings more efficient. Not necessarily shorter, though that would probably happen, but it's more about being efficient with what we're doing. We would skip June altogether, and then starting in July, we would have 1 meeting a month, which would be the second Tuesday of each month, as is laid out in the calendar you have with the dates. But this one would be preceded by a 3 p.m. work session the Thursday immediately prior to that second Tuesday. I would open this up for discussion or to see if anybody has a motion on this.
Well, the work sessions are very helpful for the council. We do a lot of discussion during the work session. We feed off each other's ideas, and you'll be surprised. You'll think you understand exactly what's going on with a particular subject, and somebody else will bring up another point. They'll make a point that you hadn't thought about. So we particularly like a work session. We were doing those before we went to the 2 council per month meeting schedule. We're not getting the work sessions in, so we don't have any time to discuss these things, but we have to get on the phone one at a time. We can't can't discuss it with more than one person at a time. If you had 2 people involved, that makes 3, that makes a meeting, so we can only do it one-on-one. So that's why the work sessions for us are particularly helpful. Having some time between the work session and the regular meeting is also helpful in that it gives you time to digest the things that you've heard from the other council members, and also to discuss, get some better feedback from them on what their idea is all about. So I particularly like the second half, where we do have a work session the week ahead. Gives us time to digest and discuss these ideas that come up before we have to vote on it on the Tuesday.
Yeah, because there wasn't a clear consensus, where 3 or 4 of us go, yeah, this is the road we want to go down. We're doing one thing for a portion of the year and we're switching to the other, so we can really get a feel for what works and what most people think will work well. Ditto the work session. I really miss work sessions. It seems silly to me to get up here and in a regular meeting have to talk all about a tractor that's already in the budget that could be on a consent agenda with 4 other things like soccer uniforms. That could all get covered in the work session. By the time you get the main meeting, you can put all those together and vote for them. I am partial to having the work session, more the second half of the year, to the work session being on a different day, mainly because it does give you time to really think through what you did, do some additional research if you want, maybe call an employee or two that you want to get some more information on before you're really prepared to vote on that.
Well, when they started the work session, my understanding was it was supposed to bring the new elected officials up to date, up to snuff on what was going on. And after that, we would go back to the regular. Now, that's what I understood as being. Now, the work session, we do the work session. We hash out, we do this, we do that. We do a consent agenda. So that's supposed to eliminate some of the stuff that we have to hash out on Tuesday night. Then when the way it has been done, when we get back to Tuesday night, we go through the consent agenda, which supposed to be just motion and voted on. Then we go through another discussion that we've already went through at work session, which to me makes no sense. If we've decided this is consent agenda, that means we say we decided to do this, we make a motion, we vote on it, and we move on. But in the past, we have been doing that, but then we turn around and we discuss again all over what we have done in work session. Now, there's some of us up here that work. We might not can make all of this. So if you're going to do the work session, fine. But if you're going to discuss it and then discuss it all over again when we get here Tuesday night or Thursday night, that doesn't make sense to me. We just beating the dead horse for what I can see. So I'm totally against the work session. Now, that's my opinion. Two council meetings, fine. But to do a work session like 3 o'clock, there's some of us that work. Yes, that's our problem, but hey, we're trying to do the best job that we can for our constituents. So to go over what we've already done does not make sense to me, and that's my opinion.
When the work session disappeared, I was sitting out there, and I felt that was a bad decision because we lost some transparency. The reason we did it was because the city needed faster responses from the city council on approvals for spending and all the other problems that are out there. But we lost transparency for the people that are sitting out there to hear the thoughts of the city council members. Without the work sessions, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background that you're not privy to. So I would think that having your city council member at least make a statement in favor or against something in the work session so you have a chance to see where that person is standing, and then in the regular meeting make a comment. I think that's valuable to the people of the citizens of Villa Rica. And I certainly missed it when I was not on a city council. That's why I'm for two voting sessions, which was what we're going to do, with a work session just before it, so that we keep the transparency, but we also work on making sure that our decisions are timely for the city to take action.
Majority of those people out there work during the day, so they not gonna be here at 3 o'clock. Some of them are, but you're saying, I mean, we're doing things to inform our constituents. I understand that, but there's people that's got to work at 3 o'clock, so they're at work, so that's not beneficial to them. Those that are not working, true, it may be.
Let me just say also, and I understand both of these points. In fact, I understand all of these concerns, and that's how we ended up with this proposal that we have. We're going to come back to this in December and see what worked and what didn't work. And if it turns out that what your concern is with regard to a waste of time with a consent agenda that just gets rehashed again, then I believe everybody will consider that and say that maybe that wasn't the best idea. Right now, I think that we could benefit from at least giving each of these options a try and see where we end up. That's where I'm going to be.
I'm actually fine with the current system. I don't mind the 2 meetings a month. I've never been on this side of the work sessions before to see how they are. I've observed them in other communities. They do seem to be efficient, but they are efficient because the consent agenda is properly used. So that's what I would like to see out of this. If we're going to try this experiment, I want to see the consent agenda properly used and to make the city's business move quickly and efficiently.
I agree with that. We have a motion for this.
Mayor, could I just
Yes,
add one
ma'am.
other thing? Just as a possibility, with the normal workday of 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever, if it would help at all, just to take this into consideration, that on the second half of the year, that 3 o'clock be a 4 o'clock instead,
Would that make a difference to anybody up here?
it would, at least would be only the last hour of the workday,
Part
might
of the
make it easier.
consideration for doing that at 3, and I appreciate that, is that staff will be here for those work sessions. We're trying to keep from dragging staff into later hours. They also are more available to their staff members, department heads and staff members. But I'm okay with 4 o'clock if anybody else thinks that that would make a difference. But if not, I think the 3 o'clock would be okay. Anybody have an opinion on that?
I think we should probably keep it, I would like to keep it at 3 o'clock, only for that reason. I don't want to get into too much
Okay.
overtime with staff or being in a meeting.
I'm fine with the 3. I'm fine with the 3 personally. I just didn't know if it would assist anyone else
I understand.
on that
Thank
regular
you.
workday.
Yeah, I'm fine with 3. And also on the consent agenda, the way it was working was the only time you would pull something off the consent agenda during a regular meeting is if some other information came up that affected that item. Other than that, we should not be pulling stuff off the consent agenda.
That's right, and I'll do my best to make sure that we do that. Does anybody have a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt or approve the mayor's proposed 2020 council meeting schedule for the calendar year 2020.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I'm moving with it.
Thank you, sir. That is unanimous.
Abstain.
We have one abstention. Ms. Marchman will abstain from that vote. All right, we will move on to tab B, Finance. Ms. Sarah Andrews. I think that's the first time I've said that new name. Welcome.
It's actually, Elisa, it's the Hotel Motel Revenue Administrative Program first. Or it was.
Yep.
Yes, okay.
This item,
Renew Hotel and Motel Revenue Administration Program for 2020. First item under B.
All right, while she's pulling that up, in December of 2017, the council approved using a GMA contractor, Georgia Municipal Association contractor, the Resource Professional Group. They work with hotels in local governments, in the local communities, excuse me. They become the contact for the hotels instead of the city administration. They audit the hotels to make sure that the city is receiving the correct revenue that they should. And so they have been doing this for us. They did all 2018 and all 2019. So they've sent us a new invoice to continue the program. It's $5,400 to continue for the year 2020. I did look, just information-wise, do you have that other one that shows them how much? I wanted to show you how much the revenue has changed.
Now, how many years have we been doing this? I remember when we first, 18 and 19. Wow, it's substantial.
Yes.
Are you showing this on the screen out there?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So you can see the hotel revenue back in 2015 was only $109,000. That was a 5% tax rate. In 2017, the council approved to increase the tax rate from 5% to 8%, and that was started in August of 2017. 2018, we began the program with TRPG, the Resource Professional Group. Again, they are a kind of a contractor with GMA. And you can see how much, now we did increase the rate, but they have definitely helped us with the enforcement piece of the tax collection. So they are the contact with the hotels. We've had a few hotels that have changed management over the last 2 years, and we just point them straight to them. They get them set up, they pay online, and then it's remitted to us the next month.
Okay, and this is a budgeted item, and the cost of this service is $5,400?
Correct.
And in exchange for that, we get this kind of accountability through this hotel motel tax?
Correct.
Seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yep, I make a motion we approve the payment of $5,400 to GMA for the 2020 hotel tax program.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you. Item number 2, update bank signers.
Yes, with the changes that we saw tonight, we do need to remove our former mayor from the bank signature cards and add our new mayor and add Councilmember Young. So I have included a list of all the bank accounts for the council to see. You can see the current signers, who we are removing and who we're adding.
Okay, give me just a minute to pull this up, and then I'll open it up.
We have several police accounts that we are not changing, but all the other city accounts are being changed.
Okay, I'm taking a look at this. Does anybody
Ready
seek
for a
to make a motion?
Yes, no
I
brainer.
make a,
Go ahead.
you got it? Okay. I make a motion that we remove Mayor Jeff Reese and add Mayor Gil McDougall and Councilman Michael Young to the bank signature cards effective immediately.
Second.
I have a motion to remove former Mayor Jeff Reese and add Mayor Gil McDougall and Michael Young to the bank signature cards effective immediately. I have a second. All in favor? All right.
We'll be looking for your signatures soon.
And we'll need to stop by City Hall to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll let
All
you
right.
know when that's all available to
All
sign.
right, just let us know. Thank you. All right, number 3, financial update.
Yes. This is a financial update for November 2019. So this was a second month into our fiscal year. Our fiscal year begins October 1st. And this is our cash as of these 2 dates. These are, when you look at cash, you're looking at a point in time. So you're looking at November of last year compared to November 30th of this year. You can see our total cash, and we do have one CD, has grown from 11 million to 14 million. General fund, water sewer fund, and sanitation fund, you can see how those have grown, particularly the water and sewer fund. We have had the 2 rate increases over the last 2 years, so you can see how that has improved our cash position. Just remember, only a few years ago, we were negative in the water sewer fund, so we've really turned that around. Sanitation and solid waste, we are still slightly negative, but another positive year should correct that, I hope. The 2008, 2015, and 2016 SPLOST accounts, those are separate bank accounts, and you can see where those stand as of today. The 08 SPLOST, we are not currently receiving funds on, but we still need to spend that $262,000.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? So tonight, when I made my remarks, I didn't talk about any of this stuff, but as everyone knows, we've been hard at work and seeing positive changes all through this dashboard. I really like it. I'm not going to dwell on it, but what I would say is that at our next meeting, I'll do a state of the city, and I'll talk more about about all of this. I think we're looking, every time I look at this, it looks better and better, and I appreciate the way you put this together. I think that's an idea of our former mayor, is that correct?
I think, yeah, we came up with this format. I think that was after you came in. So.
All right.
The good thing about being mayor is you get credit for it.
So I came up with this afternoon. Is that how that works? No?
Good
Okay.
and bad, huh?
Good and bad. All right, does anybody have any other questions for our CFO?
She's gonna get the rest of it here.
Thank you, ma'am.
She's not through.
Oh,
Do you want me to go
financial
through
update?
this? Yes.
Where's the rest of it?
She's coming.
I only have one page. Go ahead.
Oh, you don't have this copy?
I don't.
Okay. All right, so this is our growth sheet that shows how many building permits we've taken in. So last year at this point, we had 43 housing permits. Now we're up to 44 this year, so still doing good there. This is our water and sewer net income statement. At this point in November last year, we had net income of $182,000. And as of November 2019, our net income is $221,000. So if you look at the total revenue lines, you can see how much the revenue has increased. Now, in 2018, we had the one increase. 2019, now we have by then there were 2 rate increases in place. So the debt, part of the reason we were pushing those rate increases so significantly was our debt increase. Our debt payment increased by almost $500,000. We will be making that payment very soon. So these rate increases put us in a position to be ready for that. So you can see that the debt expense has increased there as well. This is our sanitation net income statement. Last year we were still showing a slight loss, negative $9,000, compared to this year we show a positive $7,000. Again, that's after 2 years of rate increases. Just some other highlights. Our sales tax from Carroll County is up slightly from last year. Our sales tax from Douglas County is down slightly, but that's just 1 month shown. Water purchase, this is not necessarily a positive one, but our water purchases at this point last year were $36,000, whereas now we are at $82,000 so far in this fiscal year. But this year we experienced the drought where we didn't have that last year. But I think we're done with that, right, Pete? Yes, so the purchases are back to normal. Number of employees compared to last year we had 161 at this point, and now we're up to 167. And lastly but not least, our self-funded insurance that's already been mentioned tonight. That green box tells you the total savings we've had since we started the program in October of 2017. So this is through November of 2019, so that's just over 2 years. Total savings since we've been on the program is $707,000. If you look in the orange box, that shows you how much the city and the employees have contributed to the plan compared to the expenses. Those are actual expenses to the doctors, to the administrators, and when we have prescription claims. So in the last 2 months, we've saved $97,000.
Wow.
Any questions?
So Jim, I'm not able to see what's up on these screens, and that's another reason why we're going to have to take a look at some of the changes I didn't know you had, and I still don't have it up here. Does anybody have any questions for the CFO?
What's the trend on the savings on the self-insured? Do we have a trend line going? Since
I can provide it for you.
I would like to see that. I think it's flat.
Okay.
Anything else?
All right. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Moving on to tab C, our Human Resources Manager, Ms. Stephanie Rooks. She will discuss the amendment of the Defined Benefit Plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Our defined benefit plan is our pension plan. As it states that once you meet the vesting requirements, you are due a retirement payment every month for the remainder of your life. Okay. Right now, the amendment that we're trying to make to this plan is that when a former employee has retired and has started receiving retirement payments, and they're elected as an elected official, that they can actually still retain their earnings. So they would still get their check from GMA while they serve as an elected official. Also, it allows the elected official to start taking their retirement payments, if they so choose, while they're serving as an elected official. And this is also a restatement of our plan. They restated all the plans at GMA this year. So this is a restatement of the plan. And I provided the restatement for you.
So the way I understood this, when I talked with you, when I first saw this on the agenda, this actually had already been adopted by the council in 2017.
It had, yes.
However, it was not
It was not-
properly
it was-
documented at GMA. Is that-
Correct.
Okay. So what we are doing here today, even though that's a very long motion for somebody to read, is we are going to just simply recertify or readopt what we've already done, but
Yes.
this way it gets filed correctly. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Anybody have any questions? All right,
Okay, I'll make a motion.
go ahead. That's a lot of reading to do.
That's right. I make a motion we adopt the ordinance redefining and restating the City of Villa Rica Defined Benefit Retirement Plan as set forth in the attached plan document to be effective February the 1st, 2020. Further move that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the adoption agreement for the City of Villa Rica, Georgia Municipal Employees Benefit System as set forth in the attached plan document to be effective February 1st, 2020.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any more questions? All right, all in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right, next on the agenda would be our Parks and Rec Director, Ms. Vicki Coleman. She will present soccer uniform vendor recommendation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, the item that's for you is the soccer recommendations. We put out a bid, and we received 2 bids back, essentially one in-state, one out-of-state. We're making approval of Crown Sports. They're actually our current and most recent vendor for the last few years. So their prices are pretty much consistent with what we have already been paying per unit. So we'd like to just make the recommendation to approve Crown
This is
Sports.
the same company we've been using for the last couple of years? Okay.
Correct.
All right, and we've been getting the best price out of them. We've been getting the best quality.
Correct.
We've been able to examine that because we've done it for a couple of years. All
Yes.
right. Well, I
Plus,
appreciate
they're
that.
in Georgia, so the money stays in state.
I appreciate that. Does anybody have a motion?
Make a motion to approve Crown Sports as a soccer uniform vendor.
Second.
Do I hear a second? Matt Momtahan made the second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Example of a consent agenda item.
Doing good, Vicki. You got one more.
This next item, these are the athletic uniforms. We also put out an invitation to bid. We received 3 responses, one of which we didn't think was fully responsive. So we're making a recommendation. You'll see the bid summary in the packet as well. It's one of the separate line items. I did receive a call. I certainly want to answer one of the questions I received. That there was a question specifically regarding some of the unit pricing and maybe why some of the vendors maybe their unit prices differ so much. Really, I guess the best way that I could answer that is, you know, it just probably depends on where they may be sourcing it from and the volume that they're actually sourcing, but specifically why they the unit price is a particular price, I can't answer that specifically. We just put it out for them, the specs for them to bid, and then they respond accordingly. But with that said, staff recommendation is approval of Gable Sporting Good. We've also used them for the last few years as well. So I don't know, again, if you have any questions on that.
I'm not seeing on either one of these the total amount that we're spending on this.
Because what you have is the actual unit price. So what happens is essentially when registration occurs, that's when we'll get our final numbers. We may order a little extra just in case things happen, but you won't really know until registration has occurred.
Right.
So as an example, we have registration that's open now for our spring activities. We'll know those numbers once we finally close out.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I have a real quick question for staff, actually.
Well,
Vicky-
let's see if we get a motion first.
Okay.
Would you like to make a motion?
I move to approve Gable Sporting Goods as the vendor for athletic uniforms.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
My question just simply was, is it not possible to kind of piecemeal this together? For example, I mean, there's a pretty big difference from the Concourse San Antonio. Their basketball jerseys are $5.77 a piece versus Gable's, which are $21.75. Can you not just say, well, we'll get basketball uniforms from this vendor, and is that?
Really, when we moved to trying to package everything at one time, it was actually for the sake of efficiency as well. So, staff piecing everyone out and doing them and then making orders from all of the things. We thought we were gaining better efficiency by doing it at one time with
Okay.
one vendor.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess these prices are driven by some kind of expectation of volume to either Gable or Concourse.
Sure. One of the things when we put out in the bid, we at least give them an estimate of here what some of our previous order numbers look like. So they have a general idea, but again, they work within that, and then they also have on their end, wherever they may, again, be sourcing it from.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, Vicki. Okay, under tab E, Police Department. I guess we will be hearing from Captain Shaddix on the pawn shop tracking system. You're on.
So what was, sorry, let me start over. A few years ago, we began this pawn shop tracking system. We did it through Rapid, at that time BWI, now it's changed to Rapid. The ordinance was changed to require the pawn shops to participate in this by city ordinance. And in doing so, it allowed us to track what people were pawning, to very often recover stolen items. During that time, it's changed over to, it's now Rapid that's handling it. The problem is other cities around us have went away from this and went to Leads Online. So where I used to be able to track Douglasville, Carrollton, now I can't see those because they're in a different system. So we're wanting to switch over as well to follow the trend with the cities around us to Leads Online. The problem with Leads Online is that they don't charge, Rapid always charged the pawn shop itself. Leads Online charges the cities. Then it's up to us to recoup part of that cost back from the pawn shops. So my recommendation is to switch us over to Leads Online. This was a budget item. It's
$2,634
a year. This is a 3-year contract, so that would be each year. One of the things that I'm wanting to do, though, to help recoup some of that cost is pass on a little bit of savings to the pawn shops that are working very well with us. Where Rapid's charging them currently 20 cents per transaction, my recommendation is to charge them 15 cents per transaction. That way we're not passing off the total cost on these pawn shops for us to be able to do our job. But it also allows us to recoup some of that and staying with the ordinance.
So you expect to recoup about 75% or 3/4 of this
I do.
expense?
And it's hard to say because you don't know how much is going to be pawned.
I understand.
The pawns actually go with the economy. Sometimes when the economy is better, they go down. When it gets worse, there's more stuff. So it's kind of hard to estimate, but we do expect to recover a good percentage of this back. Also with Leads Online, it allows us to search the scrap yards. All the scrap yards are required by state law to report everything to Leads Online. So that allows us to search that way also.
That sounds very
With
good.
a lot of
We
the
all-
new construction, there's a lot of thefts with copper and so forth, wiring.
We always want you to have all of the tools that you can have to make your job easier. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion, we allow the police department to enter into an agreement with Leads Online to provide the tracking service of pawn shop activity for the amount of $2,634 per year.
I have a motion. I have a second by Ms. Marchman. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Captain Shaddix. The next item is purchase taser cartridges for recertification. Would that be the chief or Captain Shattuck?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to handle that as well.
Well, you did so good on the last one. Let's try it.
So with the cartridges, by doing this, making this purchase now, we'll actually save $400. They're fixing to go up in price. These are needed for training with officers. There are things you have to do to be recertified. This also would give us enough to hold us for a while we can save some money again. And I do like saving money.
Sounds like it, and I think everybody up here likes
I was
saving
gonna
money.
say,
Do I hear
ready
a
for
motion? Yes.
Absolutely. This is also a no-brainer because they can't be certified in TASER if we don't have cartridges for them to practice with. I make a motion that we allow the Villa Rica Police Department to purchase the TASER cartridges from Axon for the amount of $5,785.20.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Marchman. Any other discussion? All in favor? We're doing good. All right. Thank you, sir. Tab F, Community Development. Mr. Elliott, well, it will not be. It'll be Mr. Montesinos. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The first item on my agenda this evening would be support from the City Council on the 2020 application for the Livable Centers Initiative Program. That is a program that's run through the Atlanta Regional Commission, and by going through the program, initiating it with a community assessment study, it then provides us access to federal transportation dollars to implement the programs that are identified in the study. We applied for this program last year, but were not selected to participate. This year, however, because we have initiated the comprehensive transportation study, puts us in a stronger and more competitive position to qualify for this program and subsequent funding. So with that said, I will be happy to entertain or answer any questions or comments you may have.
Okay. Let me open this up for discussion. Does anybody have any? Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Yeah, and I maybe could have called you on this, but it's a question that I think I'd need to ask in a meeting like this anyway, because I may not be the only one. I just lost where I was. Give me just a second
you're out
here.
of time.
Doggone it.
Just kidding.
It's the last paragraph of the background section on the cover sheet.
Okay.
Participation in the LCI program provides opportunities to obtain federal transportation funds to pay for improvement projects, including downtown streetscapes, I like that, curb, gutter, sidewalks, and other pedestrian enhancements, and the implementation of much of the Golden Nugget Trail. So here's my question, because I know sometimes when you get federal grants look good, and they can be good, or grants can turn into nightmares because there's so many restrictions, they won't let you do what you want, you've got to, do 15 studies on if you have a particular snail or an Indiana bat along the way, what we've dealt with. But my question on this one is this, because it deals with the Golden Nugget Trail. Do those federal funds have any restrictions as to what is on those trails?
No.
Great.
No restrictions at all.
No. What the funds
We get
are
to decide.
is if it's a project that's identified for implementation in your plan, then you can pick any one of those particular programs and apply for funding. And then it's basically a reimbursement grant. So we basically pay for the trail, and as we go month to month, we submit the invoices and they reimburse us for
80%.
80%.
So whether we allow walkers and bicyclists, possibly golf carts, we get to choose.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
The Atlanta Regional Commission is not involved in any oversight of the process as far as implementation. They're there to assist us with the study They don't actually do the study. They actually provide the funding mechanism, 80% of the funding for the study, which is done by an outside consulting firm. And then as we apply for funding for those projects, those are reimbursed to the city at 80%.
I appreciate that. So I'll give opportunity for additional discussion in a moment, but let's first see if we can get a motion. Anybody?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution in support of the city's Livable Centers Initiative, LCI, study grant application and affirm its commitment to fund 20% of the project cost should the city be selected for funding.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second by Councilman Montahan. Is there any additional discussion?
The $20,000 match from Villa Rica, was that something we decided on, or is the $100,000, is that the limit for a city our size?
This is the second year that we've applied for this, so we used the same figures that we used, the estimates with respect to the estimated study cost. That was pretty much in line with other cities that I've seen, other funding amounts that have been funded by ARC in the past. So that was just kind of a healthy number to move forward with.
Okay. Any additional discussion? McPherson? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
We now have you for item number 2, zoning map modifications. This is a discussion-only item tonight. We do not intend to take any action.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of get you guys up to speed on where we are in the process. I did meet with the Planning Commission on Tuesday to review the modifications that have been going along, to kind of give them the opportunity to be caught up to speed with respect to any council additions that have been made. I did provide you with a list of substantive changes, which give you the page numbers in your existing draft of the significant portions or amendments to the zoning text. With my meeting with the Planning Commission on Tuesday, there is one additional amendment which is in the existing Unified Development Code pertaining to the establishment of the Planning Commission, which was not actually carried over into this draft, which will be an additional 3/4 of a page. Other than that, I believe that you have all seen the changes of the working draft as it's moved forward, and I thank those council members that came and met with me to discuss the zoning ordinance and also to provide contributions to making it even better. So I think we're coming out with a great product. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do you have something else?
I just wanted to say, that said, we are wrapping up the final draft.
All right, let me make a few comments. I appreciate you listing these substantive changes. That's helpful in a document of this size, some near 300 pages. I have some concerns with it. I think other council people do as well. One of the things that I'm going to point out to you now, but I know we're doing just discussion only, and I'll allow everybody else to speak, but and I'll come down and see you to talk about some of my concerns. But one of the things that we did about 2 years ago, we dissolved the Planning and Zoning Appeals Board. And we did that primarily because that board was able to do what you say this one will do on page 12, which is to approve variances and special exceptions, which do not then go on to the council. I do believe that those need to come to the council. So that'll be a primary concern of mine with this document. That being said, let me just say this. I appreciate the work you've done here. This is a huge undertaking. And at times, just the way that my mind works, I think about doing what you've done here, which is to scrap everything else and start completely over from scratch. That way, it's less, I think, labor intensive, not to say that this one was not labor intensive. So I appreciate the work you've done. That would be my primary concern right now, and I will meet with you later. I do want to give an opportunity for anybody else who would like to speak tonight. Any other council member?
some fine reading.
Yes.
You can imagine, right? You can't sleep
Yes.
one night, you just start reading that ordinance and it'll do it.
Tom, do you
Really
have
a
any
lot of work,
comments?
though. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris, how much have you talked to them about the zoning map mods? Because between this and the P and Z, I can't keep up with what you've told who.
Well, as I mentioned, we've more or less finished the draft of the ordinance itself, but then comes the next step, and this is what I plan to get to next, is the actual application of zoning onto the ground.
Okay.
We are essentially switching out all of the zoning categories. So I believe around 70% of the properties in the city are zoned residential. And those will effectively remain the same. There were 89 or 90 what we call substantive changes in zoning for particular pieces of property throughout the city. Those being either a correction of zoning where it was misapplied, or a adjustment to the zoning for a particular piece of property that maybe was speculatively zoned to something, or maybe perhaps a development was supposed to occur that never occurred, and making those corrections and resetting those properties back to a more neutral setting. But I'll get to those more specifically in my presentation. So that's where we are in the process with respect to your comment. We've written the ordinance, now we're applying the ordinance, and I wanted to kind of go through and explain some of the justifications for the modifications we're making in the application of the zoning to the city's parcel base.
Okay.
All right. The first few slides you've seen before, these were actually in the original zoning audit. When we first started the process, when I was hired back in February of last year, I was told that my first task was to write you guys a new zoning ordinance, that the one that we had was so full of flaws that it could not be salvaged. And reading that and actually having the opportunity to apply that, I would say that's 100% factually true. If you look at some of, pardon?
I'm surprised.
I know, it's stunning. Just as an example here on this slide here, of all your residential properties in the city, and that's 69.1% of properties that are not zoned PUD. Now understand, PUD is probably the most prevalent zone, if I can call it a zone, out there. So, but looking at the other residential properties of the city, of your properties there's a rural development, about 30% of the property were non-conforming. Roughly 40% of your single-family residential were non-conforming. Almost 50% of your multifamily was non-conforming, and 100% of your townhouse attached dwellings were non-conforming. So obviously that itself showed that there was an issue. The next slide shows you the working future zoning map, which I've actually provided you all a copy of individually. There are a couple of additional modifications that have been made to this map, but this is the one that was together at the time that I put this presentation together 2 weeks ago. If we can advance 2 more slides, please. One more. Yes, please. Thank you. Now, this kind of shows you a side-by-side comparison. When I mentioned sort of a reclassification or more of a semantic change in the zoning districts. For example, you've got rural development, which is turning into single-family agricultural. Not much of a change from the standpoint of the size of the lots or the setbacks or anything like that. You've got 2 single-family residential districts being proposed. Right now, you've got one, which is your R20, which is part of the problem with the non-conforming, is that you've only got one standard zone for developing single-family residential. That's why you get so many PED developments in the city, because none of them can really fit into that box of having a lot with a 25 square foot lot area, especially not in all these newer.
Let's wait just a second.
Sure.
I thought we would get through without one of these.
No way.
What document are you showing out there while we're waiting on this train?
PowerPoint.
It starts with this.
Okay. All right, it's number 2 and page 5. All right, thank you, Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was talking about the R20 zoning, which is your single-family zoning, and the reason why so many of the neighborhoods, should I wait again?
Now, you can go ahead.
Okay. So many of the neighborhoods throughout town are zoned for planned development, as it's called, which allows developers to basically create their own zoning, establish their own setbacks, establish their own lot lines and lot coverage, et cetera. That is going to go to a different zoning format, to a R1, which is the same as the R20, but also an R2, which really addresses some of the smaller lots that you would find naturally in town, in areas like Fullerville, for example, where the lots are a bit smaller. So that eliminates a significant percentage of the non-conforming residential lots. If you look to the right, the far right, zoning districts old and new, you can see that the majority of the old and the new, there are no substantive changes between what exists and what's being proposed. However, there are 2 new zoning districts, one being the R2, as I just mentioned, and there's another one, MF2, which is a higher density multifamily zoning district, which is not actually applied to any particular piece of property, but it provides a tool in the toolbox for the city council and for development in the city when we're looking to recruit a higher density, higher quality luxury multifamily development. That would have been appropriate in the case of the Walton development, which is proposed across from Tanner Hospital. But because where we were in the zoning process, they couldn't wait for it to be rezoned to move forward with their funding application. Next slide, please. Okay, so just as a recap, the reason why we're modifying the zoning map itself is looking at the realignment of the permissible uses by each zoning category. There were things in commercial land uses or commercial zoning that were not really appropriate for commercial zoning, such as nursing homes, senior care facilities. Those are much more appropriate in your office, medical, institutional zoning districts. So we're reclassifying the uses and putting them where they should be, which under the old code was very fragmented. Application of zoning districts on incompatible land uses. There's some really good examples over in Fullerville where you've got some single-family residential homes that are occupied, part of the traditional development pattern out there, and they're zoned light industrial. It's what I call district creep, where something like industrial next door starts to seep into the neighborhood because that's where they saw themselves going, 20, 30 years ago. So we're looking at the areas that are inappropriately zoned, larger zoned parcels that were never developed. There was a lot of speculative zoning where people wanted their property zoned commercial because they thought in the future when they sold it would be worth more money, but they've never really done anything with it, and in some cases have actually quite worse, let the property run down significantly where we don't have any particular leverage in getting code and corrective actions taken on the property. The zoning densities that are applied that are inappropriate, where you have general commercial now, which, as I mentioned before, repeatedly allows things that are like your Walmart, your larger commercial office developments that are applied to small parcels. That's really not appropriate. We need to, kind of adjust the zoning on those so it's zoned more appropriately. And of course, zoning categories that we have that were randomly or never even applied. So If we can move to the next slide, I'll try to keep this going along. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these. I provided this in the original document, which was the zoning audit. But this really articulates individually the areas that we found initially that were problematic from the application of zoning that needed to be corrected. So this gives you a side-by-side comparison of what was there before and what it is going to. I've also provided you a document which is pretty thorough, which gives you the information on each of those 90 parcels that are going to be substantively affected by the zoning change and what the rationale was for the recommendation for the zoning change.
Are you talking about this oversized book?
Yes, sir. And that is also to provide you with some information as far as the individual property owners that we intend to personally contact by certified mail to let them know that there will be an official hearing, and also to give them an opportunity around 6 weeks' time to get in touch with us to let us know if they're objecting to the change.
So if they want to preserve their zoning,
Correct.
they will need to contact your office.
Yes.
The city.
Yes.
And how much time are they getting?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. And when will you be sending these out?
They will go out next week.
Okay, just want to make sure the public, I want to make sure that anything that affects a person's private property, that we do everything we can to make sure they're notified. So I'm
Yes,
making
sir.
that clear here as well tonight. Go ahead.
We anticipated, well, exactly for that reason, we pushed back our timeline for adoption. We originally were intending to have the ordinance adopted at the end of January, but because of the public participation in the application of the zoning map and our need to notify people and give them time to respond, we're pushing the recommendation for the adoption back to the 10th of March. So that gives us the rest of January and all of February, the first week of March. I think that's a generous amount of time to give people the time to respond. One more thing to close on, and it's probably the most important thing. If you'll switch a couple of slides forward, please.
What number are you going to?
I'm not sure yet.
Alyssa, would you tell me when you get there?
It's going to be, I apologize that when I distributed this out, this presentation, we put it in a PDF format. And then when she never got the slideshow, she got the PDF format.
I
So,
got you. Spinning? Buffering? We'll wait just a moment. I want to make sure I'm looking at that page.
What's going to be on the page we're looking at?
I'm going to make this pretty quick.
What's
Until we adopt the new zoning ordinance, we're still
Hang on
subject.
Hang on just a second.
Okay.
I'm going to give y'all a chance to.
I think we got in trouble with the teacher.
I can't hear. Go ahead.
Until we adopt the new ordinance, we're still subject to the current Unified Development Code. And just one more example is if we needed just one more example of why it needs to be changed. There's no differentiation in a zoning that is requested by an applicant or a property owner and one that is initiated by the city. And in accordance with our current code, every time that there is any zoning action taken on a property, that property owner has to be notified personally. Every property owner around them has to be notified personally, and a yard sign has to be placed on the property itself. In this case, that would require notification of over 6,680 something parcel owners, as well as that many signs being posted in every single yard in the city. So that's unfortunately what the code is now, and The most important thing tonight is a request that we amend the current Unified Development Code to provide an exception for city-initiated zoning or rezoning or zoning actions, so long as we are in compliance with the state zoning procedures law.
Are you asking that that be done before the adoption of this on March 10th? Okay.
Yes, we need
David, have you discussed?
I have looked at it and have talked to Chris about it, and this is something that absolutely needs to be done. I believe that it was probably an error in the last zoning that, because I've never ever been involved with a zoning ordinance where on a text amendment you have to notify everybody in town. That's never been the law anywhere.
Seems like a high burden to.
Yeah, I think that was just a typographical or error in some way, because that should have never, ever been in there. And Chris was great to catch it, but that absolutely has to be changed.
Do you plan to bring that to us on January 28th?
I was hoping actually to get a motion on that this evening.
Do you have a motion in the packet? Okay, all right, sorry, go ahead, I don't see that.
Let me, for the benefit of the public, let me just read this last paragraph that's going to be an addition to the current Unified Development Code.
Go ahead.
This is section 6 of, subsection 6 of section 2.01. Notification, zoning text amendments and revisions of the zoning map which are initiated by the city shall not require the posting of signs on affected properties. Notice to the property owners shall be required where the rezoning will substantially affect the enjoyment or use of the property as currently developed, and shall not be based on projected or prospected financial gain on a property's future transaction. The city shall be exempt from the notification of individual property owners adjoining the property being rezoned, but shall not be exempt from any requirements under the Georgia zoning procedures law. So what I've provided you in the large book is the number of property owners that will be substantially affected that we will be personally notifying.
So even that, those would be an exception to what the council would consider passing tonight.
That's
David, you've reviewed this motion. I do see it now.
Yeah, I have looked at it, and I believe it's in order. I mean, if we're going to vote on this tonight, then we do need to have a public hearing on it tonight so people can offer comments. Also, I would ask Chris, have we advertised that we are going to contemplate this text amendment tonight?
That is my question.
Okay. In that case, then I will withdraw my request for a motion. Then we'll get this back to the city council at
January
the
28th. You'll do the appropriate advertisements before then?
Yes, sir.
I was wondering how we were getting to this without me having ever seen any type of advertisement or anything else.
Sure.
You have anything else for us, Chris?
I don't.
Members of the council, does anybody? Tom, go ahead.
So one point that I would like to make is Chris has given you a bunch of facts and talked about a process, but we haven't talked about the gotcha in this thing. And the gotcha is that what we are recommending in these 80 some odd substantial changes matters to people. Matters a lot to people. Because what I have told him to do is to recommend changes so that at the end of this process, there won't be any vacant lots that are still zoned multifamily. And there won't be any vacant lots that are zoned industrial. They're going to go back to a really basic, AG or something. And when those lots, those parcels ever develop a use, it will have to come back to you for zoning. So the only exceptions are going to be a parcel that we've recently dealt with, let's say where Walton is building, or the property that where the apartments are going in behind the high school. So those, we wouldn't down zone those. or say the one vacant parcel in our industrial park. You know, we're not going to recommend that we downzone that because we want it to develop industrial. But all the others that have been zoned over the decades to higher densities, we're going to recommend that they go back to AG. And those folks are going to appeal that as sure as I'm sitting here. Right? So that's the gotcha in this thing, is we are going to embark on some work in order to get this under control. For instance, the parcel across the street from Publix behind McNeilus is zoned industrial. And we're recommending that it go back to AG. That make sense? Because we don't want it to go industrial, and if it were, we want to have the ability to put conditions on it at the time of rezoning. And right now, we don't have that opportunity. So that's where we're headed. There are other parcels that are zoned multifamily. I want that to go back to AG so that if somebody does want to put an apartment there, they go through the process just like any other new development would, and we have, again, the opportunity to put conditions on it. So we are not out of the woods. This is not an academic exercise. This is the perception of value of the land and the value per acre and the potential use and control, and all. There's just all kind of issues with this that we're fixing to impact, and that's why we're proposing a 6-week window for property owners to appeal, because they're going to appeal if they understand what we're proposing.
Let me ask you this. Those notices, are they going out certified mail? Okay. And when a person receives that and they decide to object, what will that process look like?
Well, the notice provides contact information for myself via email or mailing address, phone number, etc., in order to provide an appeal. And we'll keep a record of that, and we will provide that information to the city council around the time that this thing is being considered, certainly if not before.
So my question, I think, is more with the objection. David, this may be for you. Does that person simply raise an objection and they avoid this zoning change, this reversion, or will there be a hearing? Will there be some legal process?
Yeah, this is a question that I've just been asked for the first time, but it's listening to Tom. I think if that person objects to us and say, you've given me a notice saying you're rezoning my property, I object to that, then that is something that we as a city are going to have to study, because you're going to have to make the determination whether or not that person has vested rights in the zoning as it exists at the time, because we don't have the ability to take away somebody's vested property rights without going through the due process steps required by law. And I think we would probably start out by talking to that person, trying to figure out what position they're taking and why. And we may agree with them that, you know, if they can show us that it's been sitting there for 10 years, zoned industrial, but it hasn't been used, but here's all my plans that I have to begin building next week, and I've spent $100,000 getting ready for it, then we as a city would, you know, probably just voluntarily say, yeah, you've got your rights vested there, and we're not going to try and mess around with your zoning at this point. By the same token, if somebody just comes in and says, you know, well, it's zoned industrial, and I'm hoping in the next 100 years that, you know, I might change it to industrial, then we may go formally through the process of rezoning it and giving them an opportunity to appear and have a hearing, and then you'll be charged with making whatever you believe is the correct decision at that point.
So I think that what I would, to err on the side of caution as he begins to send these notices out, and as you do get responses, if you do, you need to develop a legal plan for the city so that everybody is treated fairly. So we don't have a hodgepodge of I agree with you and I don't agree with you, and we don't have any standard in place to do that. So I think you would probably have done that anyway, but let me just make sure that I say that, because
Sure.
we always want to be sensitive to the rights of property owners. That will always be a top priority for me. Go ahead, sir.
Tom, you mentioned a couple of cases where you said the city doesn't want the land used that way. Are we talking about changes to the land use maps after this is all done?
No, this was already contemplated when we did the comp plan update, but we didn't make zoning changes. So what we're proposing here is not just a zoning change, but a serious, it will have a serious impact on the way that the property develops, because we will be reinserting ourselves at the P&Z level and at the council level before these properties develop with any density. But I think that's in the best interest of the city if we're going to have input into how these vacant parcels grow.
Yeah, there's no question that this is needed. I mean, I follow exactly what, and you know, we've talked a number of times about these islands. I mean, and that's not really being addressed here, but that needs to be part of it. This is something that we need to do. No, even if it's difficult. I mean, it will be difficult, but our job is to make sure that we look out for the interests of the public and of the property owners. Anybody else have?
This is the first time I've heard your explanation on why you wanted it zoned back AG, that sort of thing, and why it looks this way before and after. There's at least several of us that are probably real big property rights. I mean, people own property, they ought to have a right to say something, but often if there's good communication, and let me use a real-life example that you brought up, and maybe this will help. Up there by Publix is that property zoned industrial. But when you're communicating with the property owner, if it's zoned AG, it doesn't mean we're planning on having cows come back in there. The idea of having AG is just so when we do rezone it, would we call this some of what we're trying to control in the smart growth? Because we know that we would love to have some development in there. They understand, I mean, if it's clear to them, we're not talking that we're going to agriculture because that's what we expect it to be. Does that make sense? And just communicate clearly with them that, hey, we can see a multifaceted development in there, especially where we want to bring that road from Shoreline into downtown and connect the two sides of town together. And I'm sure that won't be the case in all cases, but I'm thinking there's probably a number of them where just communicating with people on it will make a difference.
I mean, those are really good points, and I would just echo that that is not what's happening here. We're not actually suggesting that the zoning becomes what it has to be in that case of agriculture that you're talking about. So, does anybody else have any questions for Chris? Chris, do you have anything else for us?
No, I'll be back on the 28th.
Yeah.
On the 28th, okay. Tom, do you have anything? David?
I do
you
not.
have anything?
No.
Any other council member have anything?
No.
All right. Let me just say, this was my very first council meeting. It's going to take a few minutes, probably a few meetings, I probably should say, to get into a rhythm. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I appreciate everybody staying for this meeting. I look forward to the year, and I look forward to working with everybody on this council. I'm excited about the things that we're doing, and I appreciate all the staff who are able to be here tonight, and Tom, the work you're doing. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second, and all in favor? We're done.
Regarding the comment that you